Hello and welcome to a Spectator TV special. I'm Katy Balls and I'm joined by James Forsyth. And we're going to talk about the first round of the Tory leadership contest that we just bared witness to. James, we've had some knockouts.
Yeah, Jeremy Hunt, the former Health Secretary and former Foreign Secretary who came second to Boris Johnson in 2019, is out. I think his own analysis of why he's out is actually right, which is essentially with the Tory leadership, you get one shot at it. And I think people were of the view that, you can't really go back to the membership and say, you didn't pick him in 2019, will you pick him now? And I mean, that's really probably what did for Jeremy Hunt's campaign, along with the fact that Tom Tugendhat, the kind of young Turk at the One Nation wing of the party, kind of got out earlier and in front of him. And I mean, that's what it did for him. Then there is Nadhim Zahawi, the Chancellor, who is also out. I think if we'd done this recording a fortnight or so ago, I think lots of people would have talked up Nadhim Zahawi, including myself. He had a lot of transferability, was the phrase that people used about him, which was the idea he could pick up support from all sorts of different wings of the party. I think ultimately what did for him was the confusion of the end of Boris Johnson's time in government. Remember that, I'll get my days of the week wrong now, but on a Tuesday night, Nadhim Zahawi accepted the job of Chancellor from Boris Johnson. Then on Wednesday night, he went to see Boris Johnson to say, look, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think you can stay on as Prime Minister. But he didn't resign that night, and there was some confusion because various people in Number 10 were saying that Zahawi was signed up to give a big speech on the economy, lining out some kind of immediate tax cuts. Then on Thursday morning, Nadhim Zahawi published a letter which said he's not resigning, but he thought it was time for Boris Johnson to go. And I think that combination of events just left colleagues kind of confused about what Nadhim Zahawi was thinking, and just it was very difficult to get going from there for him in this leadership campaign. So those two are the two to drop out tonight.
And just to bring viewers up to speed, obviously do send your questions in because we're going to come to them shortly. But you had to get 30 nominations today to make it through. As we just discussed, both Jeremy Hunt and Nadhim Zahawi failed to do that. The candidate who received the highest number of nominations was Rishi Sunak on 88, followed fairly closely behind by Penny Mordaunt on 67. And then you had Katy Balls on 40, you have Tom Tugendhat on 37, and you have Suella Braverman on 33. James, listening to those results, and you've got some questions about who has momentum, but just looking at how the vote is splitting, it feels as when it comes to the right of the party, they're still to decide who the candidate is going to be, even if there are tentative signs more leaning towards Liz Truss.
Yeah, so Liz Truss got 50 votes, but I think it's very difficult for her to unite the right while Suella Braverman is still in this contest, which she will be tomorrow. And I think the tricky thing is that there are lots of people around Suella Braverman who don't understand why she should drop out of the contest in favour of Liz Truss. Suella Braverman was a Brexiteer who voted against Theresa May's deal repeatedly. Liz Truss is a Remainer who voted for it. And so even though Liz Truss has got the backing of people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, Ian Duncan Smith, senior figures on the right of the party, I think there are still quite a lot of Suella Braverman supporters who are like, well, why should she back her? And so that is kind of continuing to be an issue. And so we wait to see now, I think, what happens next in this contest. And it's very quick because it is tomorrow. There aren't days of MPs mulling their choices. It's another vote tomorrow night. And I think that the challenge for Liz Truss is, she's at 50, but how much of that Zahawi Hunt support can she pick up? And also, how much of that, I think she wants to, at the very least, keep her gap from Katy Balls where it is. I mean, Katy Balls has had a very good contest so far. It would make life difficult, I think, for Liz Truss if next time round Katy Balls was gaining slightly on her. And so I think we see that. I think that it's interesting. I think that Nadhim Zahawi has said that he will not endorse anyone in this contest. I think that look, obviously everyone would have liked his endorsement, but I think that is an interesting sign as well. I think of the fact that no one can quite tell where this is going.
Though, as you discussed, Nadhim Zahawi's endorsement of Boris Johnson was quite short-lived last week. So, Now, let's go to some of the questions that we have. So, one question here, we can both answer them in a snappy and short way.
All right.
That we'll get a few more questions. Who has the momentum now? I think from today, my take is Penny Mordaunt has the momentum, in the sense that Rishi Sunak is the front runner, but he's been established as that. And therefore, when you've had all this membership polling coming out today, which has shown Penny Mordaunt, YouGov poll mirroring to a degree what the Con Home poll said earlier this week, suggesting she would fare well against nearly all the candidates in a playoff. It does feel that, combined with the fact that her public number of backers was lower than the number that actually came out for today, does feel as though Penny Mordaunt's the person that everyone's talking about, not just because she's having a party tonight.
Yeah, I think that she has obviously got 6-7 was a good set of numbers for her. I think 88 was above par for Rishi Sunak. I think that was kind of more than he needed to establish himself as that. And I think the gap between Penny Mordaunt and Liz Truss was slightly bigger than I was expecting. And so I think we wait to see now what the numbers are tomorrow. Where does it go? Who has got it building for them? And I think the other thing that is clear is this is a very, very fluid contest. And I think that things such as these TV debates that are coming up in the next few days and the first few hustings with the membership round are really going to matter. I think this is going to become a very, I mean, it was always an unpredictable contest, but I think it is a particularly unpredictable contest now because there is this question, can Liz Truss unite the right to make her way through to the final two? How does Penny Mordaunt cope with everyone now saying, oh, right, Penny Mordaunt is, this morning, you were rightly calling Penny Mordaunt a dark horse candidate. She has now, in the course of a day, shifted from dark horse to kind of to I think the favourite in the betting markets. And so I think this is the kind of question of how does all this pan out? It is very unpredictable.
We're just going to apologise now because in the background, not sure you can see it, but James, what do we have?
We have a marching band about to accompany us and bringing the results to us.
So we're going to bring the microphone closer. I'm being nodded at. Okay, so here's a question on Penny Mordaunt, and given Penny Mordaunt is almost seen as a military candidate, well, maybe, but in that sense, perhaps this music is appropriate. Where are Penny Mordaunt's votes coming from? I think what is important here is effectively, we keep talking about the candidates on the right of the party. I think what can be a bit confusing is, well, where are Penny Mordaunt's votes coming from? Is she a One Nation Tory? She was a Brexiteer. She campaigned for that. So where is her base?
So I think Penny Mordaunt, I think one of the things that the other camps have had difficulty getting a handle on, I feel like a very old school BBC announcer with the microphone very close like this. I think one of the things that the other campaigns have had is that she slightly defies easy ideological characterization. So she is a Brexiteer, but she's also the person who stood at the dispatch box and said trans men are men and trans women are women, which is not a position that many members of the ERG take, for example.
Slightly.
No, indeed. But so she has a mixture of positions. I also think that the other thing that Penny Mordaunt is a thing that you can easily forget in contests like this. She has been an MP for a fair while, and she has a lot of friends. She's put a lot of effort into cultivating people, and so I think that is another element of this contest, which is that social element, those bonds of friendship that people form the view that someone's got, they're going to back someone because they trust them and they know them personally.
Now, next question is from Simon Collis. How do you expect the eliminated votes to be distributed amongst the remaining candidates? I think for now it's safe for me to put this back down. Oh no, okay, I'll keep my prop. So tonight we'll be expecting, because James, as you say, this is so fast, they're back tomorrow having to vote. Do you think there'll be lots of frantic phone calls trying to win over the supporters? I mean, not all of someone's supporters are going to go cohesively to one place.
Yeah, I don't. In these contests, you can't move your MPs around like pieces on a chessboard and say, right, I'm coming with me and all my supporters. I think Raven Christie could do that, but I don't think many other people can. Yes, and so I think the question is, where do they go? And I think again it is it is not easy to tell. So I think the Hunt support, the Tugendhat lot, will be very keen to get quite a good chunk of votes because they are, those were the two One Nation candidates. I think that some of those will go for Rishi Sunak because I think some of the reason that those people were backing Jeremy Hunt over Tom Tugendhat was, a view that you had to have ministerial experience to become prime minister. But whether Zahawi votes go again is interesting because he was very much a kind of centrist candidate in this race, and so you can almost imagine them going. You would not be surprised to see them splitting around among almost all the candidates. I mean, I don't think many of them are going to go to Suella Braverman because aware of her because she represents a particular type of Brexiteer Tory, of which I don't think Zahawi had many in his column. But I think all the other candidates will think that they have a chance of getting some of those Zahawi voters.
Now, we have another question, which is Rishi Sunak still needs another 30 votes to secure a place in the final round. Is there a chance he doesn't get there? I think my take on that is he's clearly has the most votes for now, but we've got to see where they fold. I think it's interesting what you're saying, James, which is some of the Jeremy Hunt votes could go to Rishi Sunak, because if you're looking at some of the pledges by lots of these candidates, they've all been very low tax and low tax now, immediate tax cutting actually puts them in opposition in a way to what Rishi Sunak has been saying, which is don't believe in fairy tales. We are going to cut taxes, but we have to wait, which I thought might put some limits on some MPs backing one candidate and then going to someone saying something a little bit different. I think that it's also interesting when you look at the candidates on the right, because there's lots of talk tonight about how they need to rally around one. But Christopher Hope from the Telegraph is saying they plan to do that, and then they're going to storm Rishi Sunak, implying that maybe you could knock him off. But I wonder if it might be a more fruitful game for them to try and push Penny off in terms of where the numbers are coming from. What do you think?
I think there is an interesting question here, which is I think that you can see that I don't think anyone can sit here and say, oh, X, Y, Z person is certain to get 120 votes to get through to the final round. I don't think that is certain, but I also think you can see what my maths is limited. So he needs 32 more votes. I think you can see where those 32 more votes might come from. I think the question for the Liz Truss is, how much is she now in competition with Penny Mordaunt? I think quite a lot, because I think there will be Penny Mordaunt is kind of, yes, she's not put as much emphasis on immediate tax cuts as Liz Truss has, but but I think there are some similarities between the kind of Mordaunt and Truss offer. I also think Penny Mordaunt is an interesting question in terms of her relationship to the Boris Johnson government, because she was a minister in it, but she was never in the cabinet in it, and there was a lot of puzzlement at Westminster about why she never resigned from the Boris Johnson government, even when kind of we were up to how many resignations did it get to, 50 odd or something. She wasn't one of them. I think you see perhaps tonight the wisdom of that she has not attracted the ire of Boris Johnson's supporters in the way that those candidates who quit did. And maybe that is making it slightly easier for her, the fact that she chose to just sit tight and keep her head down at the Department of International Trade.
Now, we've got two questions we're going to end on. I'll take one, you'll take the other, James, and then we're going to bid you farewell to our next session. So I'll take the $1 million question from Chris, which is, how does Kemi win? And then James, we're going to come to you, which is, if Penny won, what do you think her cabinet would look like? How does Kemi win? I mean, I think if you just look at the polling, and also I would say definitely in terms of our website and our writers, both in the magazine and online, it feels as though Kemi Badenoch is the candidate who is exciting Spectator writers such as Rod Liddell, others the most. There seems to be a lot of interest in reading articles about her. I would say if you're writing something about Kemi Badenoch, if you're writing, there's an immediate audience for that, and therefore I think she ultimately just needs to convince the others that she is the best candidate for the right of the party. If she can get the MP backers, I think in a final two, things would get very, very unpredictable. Now, I think we have to caveat that, which is effectively, because there's less known about these candidates, there is a higher risk that they blow up or something goes wrong, or they actually decide they don't like the level of scrutiny that comes with going for the top job. If you think about what happened with Andrea Leadsom in the 2016 leadership contest, made the final two, a few rookie errors, then ultimately that interview with the Times, where she was reported as bringing up the fact that Theresa May didn't have children, and it led to her bowing out. So it can be very unpredictable. But I do think, speaking to MPs, even some of them don't want Kemi Bain not to be Prime Minister. Some who do. I think what they can all agree on is if she got to the final two, is that she convinced her MPs, which I think right now is a tall ask, then she would be a very tricky candidate for whoever is facing her. James, going over to you now for Penny's potential cabinet.
Well, I think you can see at her kind of campaign launch, her campaign team, who's important to her. George Freeman, I think, is a kind of big, policy influence on her. He asked a question the other day in House of Commons about a particular cabinet job that he would like to see created, kind of in charge of kind of business research. I think it's fair to say that he might have his eyes on that. He also sent an intriguing tweet suggesting that Tom Tugendhat would make a very good foreign secretary, which I think was a fairly public play from the Mordaunt campaign. Andrea Leadsom introduced Penny Mordaunt today. And she's been business secretary, and you can imagine her maybe as a chancellor in a Penny Mordaunt administration. So I think those are the kind of things that you can see happening, and I think this is an interesting question. I think Sean's question will be asked a lot more by people in the coming days, because there is a kind of Penny Mordaunt has written this book about what her kind of policy plan is for Britain. But and I think there will be lots of people kind of combing over it in the next few days, to try and work out what is Mordantism.
And with that, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for joining us. We will be back with more of these as the contest goes on, and we will see you then.